Ladies and gentlemen, kicking off another week. It is the 21st day of July 2014. I am your host, Alex Jones. We're going to be live here, Lord willing, for the next 3 hours. I've been sitting in here for the last 30 minutes or so, going back over the news that I was researching early this morning and last night, and some of the news that we covered yesterday evening on the Sunday broadcast that was live 4 to 6 p.m., and I just pinch myself yet again that we are in this situation, that our world has gotten this crazy, and that there is intensified fighter bomber attacks by Ukraine into the east area of the Crimea, that the entire Western world is promoting basically a new Cold War with Russia, and saying now that Russia's the enemy, all because of this airline being shot down in a war zone, and Russia hasn't even taken responsibility for it. And the public is so dumbed down and the media is so controlled that it's still not an issue, other than CBS News and a few other reports I've seen. What we pointed out day one last week is that that flight was routed through an area where for at least 2 months, FAA Europe, there's a branch of the FAA over there, but also the EU air traffic control, had banned flights flying over that area. And no flights have been directed over it. And there's another bizarre story up on Infowars.com by Paul Joseph Watson today. And that deals with a Malaysia Airlines diverting flights over Syria airspace. What's going on with Malaysian Airlines? You've got one of them disappearing. You've got this other one directed right over the war zone that no one dare fly into. And, I mean, they give you a flight plan, folks. You follow it, or fighter jets come up and make you land. It's been like that for 60 years all over the world. And then now we've got another Malaysian airliner flying right over the war zone in Syria where you're not supposed to fly, and there's a flying ban, a no-fly zone. I mean, what's going on with Malaysian Airlines? These are brand new 777 jets. They've never had issues before. I looked into it this morning. Something's going on. They've got some weird deal with the Malaysian government or something, with some type of weird clandestine hanky-panky. And when I bring this up, the controlled dinosaur media, state-run media, will say, Alex, with more theories. Hey, these aren't theories. They diverted that doomed flight that was shot down last week right over a war zone that nobody dare fly over, where missiles are shooting up in the air and fighter bombers are bombing cities. The Russian rebels had shot down 3 aircraft in the week before that. So this is the type of garbage we're dealing with. So I intend to open the phones up on this subject and see what you think, especially if you've worked for the FAA or if you've worked in military, air traffic control. I know we have a lot of air traffic controllers, current and retired, listening. Does any of this make sense to you? You're the experts. I'm going to open the phones up specifically for people who are pilots or who have civilian or military or private. And I want to open it up to air traffic controllers. I don't care if you're from Chile or Texas. Texas is its own country, you know, at least it should be. The toll-free number to join us is 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. Stay with us. Glenn Spencer of American Border Patrol, one of the most versatile activists in the last 20 years, exposing the plan of the Ford Foundation in Mexico to break up the United States as part of a North American Union, using Mexican nationalism and border crises to bring it in. He's been predicting this for more than 12 years that I've been interviewing him on air. He's been an activist since he was a Native American organization activist for the tribal lands, and then began to research how Mexico was treating the natives down there, who are the indigenous peoples. And he is one of the most outspoken folks on the border. He moved from California to Arizona, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, to be right there on the border and to be able to detail what was happening and unfolding. So that's coming up at the start of the next hour. Then at the bottom of that hour, I was going to air this last Thursday, but the Malaysian airliner shoot down started. So I decided to wait until this week so that it would not be covered up in the rest of the news. And that is a 15-minute report we put together with some of the highlights of Matt Drudge in 1998 in a 50-minute speech predicting with almost prescient understanding what would happen to the media landscape in the future. It's easy to make predictions now because we're already here. But if you go back to 1998, it's truly a trailblazing speech. And we've added some video clips and news articles and documents to it to make it even more powerful, because I saw the speech again on the 15th anniversary, and it got picked up by Time Magazine and others pointing out that Drudge was right. And then I happened to come across the video again a few weeks ago and decided that I wanted to, again, put out a special report on it. So that's coming up at the bottom of the next hour. And then we've got Syrian Girl joining us again, who, since she first started appearing on this show about 1.5 years ago, has gone public with her full name and the fact she lives in Australia, and that she's part of an exiled family that were kicked out by the Assad's father, and who were part of the ruling government previous to that. So she is a big insider, and everything she talked about in the last 1.5 years turned out to be 100% accurate. I mean, really knows her stuff. And now she goes on national Australian television and talks about these subjects as well. So she'll be joining us coming up from Australia in the third hour today. And we'll talk about the situation with ISIS, the situation in Ukraine, not just in the Middle East. So the truth about ISIS with Syrian Girl coming up today, for at least part, probably 30, 40 minutes of the third hour. I want to open the phones up after I cover some news here in a moment to deal with the shoot down of the Malaysian airliner MH17 last week. And I want to talk to people that are, again, private pilots, commercial pilots, military pilots, or air traffic controllers, because I know a little bit about air traffic control. My dad's been a pilot since I was a little kid, both flown helicopters and, Cessnas, things like that. So we would fly to see Grandma, on the weekend and land in the cattle pasture. I just remember being with my dad on those flights and the fact that there'd be a big storm and he couldn't go around it because there'd be military bases on both sides. He would find a local airport and we'd land and then go in and get some chips out of the vending machine and drink some coffee till it blew over. And if it didn't blow over, he'd get coffee, I'd get, a Sun-Kissed soft drink or something. If it didn't blow over, we would go stay at a little motel in the town. And that happened a few times. Probably flew with my dad 50, 60 times, probably more than that, probably 100 times. And a couple times had to land the plane because he couldn't fly around a thunderstorm because there were so many military bases. The minute you start straying off your flight path, they come on the radio and they say, what are you doing? They call out your number. And if you don't do what they tell you, F-16s are on your butt in about 10 minutes. That's why 9/11 was a fraud. They said in the news, USA Today, you name it, that no aircrafts had ever been intercepted in U.S. history. And that it was completely normal that NORAD stood down for 50-plus minutes. And that they lost the planes, which obviously wasn't true. And air traffic controllers have gone public about that it was all a fraud. I don't know exactly what happened on 9/11, but I know that the air traffic controllers, when they finally released part of the tapes, were saying, what is this simulation? You've taken control, and you're putting simulated aircraft over everything we're doing. That's the centralization that NORAD had. That's why centralization and technocracy is so dangerous, is that